Okay, we're working on the homework from page 697, and for all of these problems, the thing we want to remember is that if we have an inverse sine problem, then we're looking for our answers to fall in quadrants 1 and 4. Quadrant 1 if it's positive, quadrant 4 if it's negative. If it's an inverse cosine problem, then our answers will fall in quadrants 1 and 2, 1 if it's positive, 2 if it's negative. And if it's an inverse tangent problem, then our answers will fall in quadrants 1 and 4, 1 if it's positive, 4 if it's negative. And when we give a quadrant 4 answer, we need to give it as a negative degree measure or negative radian measure. Okay, let's do number 13. Y equals the inverse sine of 0. We're going to answer in radians. And we are asking ourselves the angle whose sine is 0. So find the angle whose sine is 0. And that angle falls between negative 90 degrees and 90 degrees. So picture that. Picture the unit circle. We have the point 1, 0. So the sine of that point is 0. The cosine is 1. And so that would be 0 radians or 0 degrees, 0 either way. So y equals 0. Okay, number 15. Y equals inverse cosine of negative 1. So we want the angle whose cosine is negative 1. Okay, that's another quadrantal angle. So cosine is negative 1 over here at the negative 180 degree mark. And that would be pi radians. So the answer is pi. Number 17. Y equals inverse sine of negative 1. We're doing all the quadrantal ones together here. Okay, so we're finding the angle whose sine is negative 1. Okay, where is sine negative 1? Down here on the unit circle at the point 0, negative 1. So normally we think of that as 270 degrees. But we have to answer between negative 90 and 90. So instead we're going to think of that as negative 90 degrees. And in radians, that would be negative pi over 2. Number 19. Y equals arctangent of 0. The angle whose tangent is 0, something between negative 90 and 90. So it's another quadrantal. Let's see, this one is, since tangent is y over x, that would be 0 over 1. Sine over cosine, 0 over 1, that would be it. So it would be 0 radians. Number 21. Y equals arc cosine 0. So find the angle whose cosine is 0. Okay. So that would be up here at 90 degrees. We have the point 0, 1. So that would be pi over 2 radians. Y equals, oh yay, we're getting one that's not quadrantal. Y equals inverse sine of square root 2 over 2. Okay, so that's positive. So that means we're going to be in quadrant 1. And how about if we do this? Let's think of square root 2 over 2 as what it was before it was rationalized. It was 1 over square root 2. So then we can put a 1 on the opposite and a square root 2 on the hypotenuse, and we'll recognize that as a 45, 45, 90. So y is 45 degrees. Change that to radians, and we get pi over 4 radians. Okay, what's next? 25. Y equals arc cosine of negative square root 3 over 2. Okay, it's negative, and since it's negative, we're going to be in quadrant 2 for arc cosine. Remember, it's quadrants 1 and 2 for arc cosine, 1 and 4 for the others. All right, so we draw a reference triangle in quadrant 2. We can put a square root 3 on the adjacent and a 2 on the hypotenuse. So hopefully we realize that that is a 30-degree reference angle. And so we have 150 degrees for our angle if we were answering in degrees, but convert that into radians and we get 5 pi over 6. 150 degrees is 5 pi over 6 radians. All right, now we're jumping to 35. This time we're going to give the answer in degrees. Theta equals arc tangent of negative 1. Okay, we're back to quadrantals, or are we? Maybe not. Let's see. Let's think of that. So where would arc tangent be negative? If it's negative, it's going to be quadrant 4. Let's think of that as negative 1 over 1. Make it into a fraction. And we would have negative 1 on the opposite and 1 on the adjacent. Okay, so that's not quadrantal. That's a 45-degree reference angle. And we're answering in degrees this time. But remember, we're not going the normal way. We're not going counterclockwise and saying 315. We're going clockwise and saying negative 45 because we're supposed to give an answer that falls between negative 90 and positive 90 degrees. Now we do 37. Theta equals arc sine of negative square root 3 over 2. That's very similar to the last one, or to one of the previous ones, but it's arc sine. So it's negative, so we're going to be in quadrant 4 for inverse sine. Draw the picture. Put the square root 3 on the opposite and the 2 on the hypotenuse. So hopefully we recognize that as a 60-degree reference angle. And we're not going to call that 300 degrees because we're going clockwise this time and giving it a negative degree measure, negative 60 degrees. One more. I think it's 45, right? 45. Theta equals inverse sine of 2. Okay, we can make that 2 over 1. It's positive, so you want to think about quadrant 1. Draw your reference triangle. So 2 on the opposite, 1 on the hypotenuse, and then you go, wait a minute, how is that even possible? They're tricking me. This one is not possible.